I wish good things to you who's watching this. I am Alexey, and this is the fifth and decisive round of the group stage of the 2025 Carcassonne Champions League. We are witnessing two matches today. First of all, in Group D, Megot Noskill of Australia versus Lord Troop of Argentina. This match doesn't have that much tournament significance because, as you can see from this tournament table, the first three spots which will advance to the playoffs have already been decided, so there is no chance for these three players to qualify, and these three players have guaranteed them spots in the playoffs. But there's definitely something to play for because the first place in each group gets extra perks. They get to go straight to the second round of the playoff, to the round of 16, and they also probably get themselves an easier opponent, whereas the other two qualifiers will need to still get past the round of 24. So definitely a lot more to play in this match for the Australian, who, if he wins, and especially if he wins 2-0 against Lord Troop of Argentina, he will probably be in sole first place. But of course, it also depends on how these two guys play. This we'll find out a little bit later in the week. So I have no doubt that Lord Terrycloth and Secret Star of China are watching this and rooting against the Australian, suddenly dressing themselves in Argentinian flags. Well, we're going to talk about this matchup a little bit later. I just wanted to also show you the other matchup, which is starting in about an hour. So we'll be missing the start, but at around 11 UTC, maybe a few minutes after this, as soon as the first match is over, some real stakes in Group H. Two Masters, the highest rated player, well, the player with the world record holder for the highest rating online, RabbitRain of Japan, will be playing the reigning bronze medalist of the Mind Sports Olympiad, Posse 118, for the first place in the group. It is as simple as that. Both of them on 3 wins in 4 matches, looking to secure that 4th win. So an incredibly high-level matchup should await us. So let's see if Australia and Argentina are already going at it, and yes, they are. As you can see, the Australian is currently the rating favorite, although this would not be a completely accurate assessment. In fact, it is the Argentinian who has the higher peak rating, and I would even put the Argentinian as a 55% favorite normally. But given the fact that the Australian is probably more motivated, that this match has more importance for their tournament standings, I would expect this to be a completely even coin toss. And the early position does give us exactly that. So an early lead on the scoreboard for Mr. Lord here were 4 points, but Megot with the first monastery and a proud red meeple right in the center of it, but immediately equalized by the theology student from Argentina. So if there is somebody who knows how to play monastery, that's him. Also notice that this actually wasn't an obvious move at all, because many players as black here would have gone over here simply to net more points. So if you go over here at the bottom as black, right, you take 4 immediate points. But here you take 4 points as black, but you also give a point to your opponent's monastery. So that's sort of 3. But positionally, this monastery is great because it's controlling red's monastery and red's city as well. And in fact, now that red has placed another monastery, what black should do, they should not place a single tile in any of those squares. They should let red build up, get red's meeples back, and then as a side effect, this guy will also get his meeples back. So this monastery here from Megot was actually a bit misplaced. It was better to just start a new one. In the meantime, a city fight is starting at the bottom, as a city cap is used by the Argentinians to try and invade the city at the bottom. It does not work often enough because he would need to get back-to-back Doritos and then a city cap and all that before red has chance to reinvade. But if red draws a lot of road tiles and not city tiles, which appears to be the case at least for now, then this city can score upwards of 18 points. Some more quick points for black on the scoreboard, also limiting monastery options over here. But now this rodent can be exploited by red if red just goes over here. But I wonder if red just has the temptation to continue the road in a more direct manner. Yeah, actually, this move here is not necessarily the easiest one to make, because your opponent could just get a curve and equalize your road. But since your road is so small, it's really not a big deal if your 2-point or 3-point road gets equalized. But let's see what red comes up with here. Instead decides to proceed with a more direct approach. It has some downside. For example, this square is like a little bit exposed. Maybe with a city plus straight line combo, black could even block it. So far, city cap for black. He can actually start going towards that. So he can go over here and start a new city like this. And it also happens to be probably the best spot on the board for the city anyway. So if you start a new city at the bottom, then you are creating an even bigger monastery spot, and then you're leaving a dangling road. And so he does decide to go for it. That's a nice find here from the Argentinian. Megot, with a city cap, continues his own stuff, and a lovely tile for Mr. Lord, which probably is usable over here for blocking. It's a really nice tile to be spending, and you want to do a bunch of other things. You want to be finishing your city. You want to be maybe starting a new city. Maybe you want to go over here and equalize red city, and all of these things are not wrong. I just really like the idea of blocking here, because if you can get yourself the long-term meeple advantage, the fact that your opponents will be finishing an 8-point city is not a big deal at all. Hi Nicholas, hi Kaika, hi Hugo, hi Temrak, hi Wise Maze, hi Ian. Oh, that's actually interesting insight. Thank you for sharing that about the tournament situation in Group H, which is our second match. So turns out that it's not just battle for the first place, it's also battle for the playoffs, as the players have not secured their spots just yet. In the meantime, we see that lovely discipline here by the Argentinian player. Manages to forego the temptation of playing too efficiently and using the city cap to invade the city. Simply does what needs to be done, blocks his own monastery, but 2 of red's monasteries in the process. Red, of course, completes a city, gets himself some scoreboard points, but overall a great situation for black. Presumably going to use this cow tile to connect to the city at the bottom, although it is also tempting to go here and try and disrupt red city as well. It is not obvious whether you want to even connect at the bottom, because this square, as a result of the completion of red city, is now obstructed. And so maybe if this square gets eventually blocked, then red will need to try and get a splitter tile just to save his meeple. I like the idea of the connection here, so he makes sure that red has fewer tiles available to him to develop his city. Like moves like these, they take out the extender tiles, they take out the vertical splitters, they take out a bunch of scoring options for red. It's also a way to use a low quality tile to equalize your high quality tile of opponents. And then there are still plenty of Doritos to try and threaten that city. Ideally, black wants to draw a Dorito with the road first to go over here. And then another Dorito to go over here. Red now with a slight misstep. They are helping black a little bit too much. So of course the correct move here is to turn the tile the other way that they just did and equalize black city. Instead, They start a newer city of lower quality than Black's. They, of course, are pushing their road into Black City, making it harder to complete. But it's not even necessarily in Black's interest to complete that city at all, because if these two meeples get trapped, despite a losing mini battle for 3 points, 1 point city against a 4 point road, Black's meeple advantage will be more noticeable with 3 of Red's meeples blocked and 2 of Black's meeples blocked. That said, it will actually be a great idea now for Black to finish the city, and I had no doubts that Black had made up his mind about this in advance. The only thing he's thinking about is whether it is worth to drop a farmer, and he correctly decides that it is a bit too early. There is some potential for this field to be boxed off and stayed at 6 points. And the reason why this move is so potent for Black is not just about the meeple retrieval and the 3 extra points on the scoreboard. It is about the chance to draw back-to-back straight lines, add 3 points to Red's road, but make sure that Red's road is curved right into this blocked hole over here. In the meantime, Red is trying to bail out of their dangerously started city. The reason why this formation is dangerous, by the way, is because of this L-shaped formation from the squares. That's something that I learned from reading the Catalan strategic guide for Carcassonne. This is something that they really emphasize. So this is a way to potentially lose your meeple, and the pattern to lose your meeple here is a curve here, a Dorito tile here, and then this square is blocked like this. So it's not something that Lord Trooper can threaten at this moment. Or actually, wait a minute, he can. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but he can. So, for example, he could go like this, add a cow tile to his opponent, a horse tile rather, and then hope to draw a curve on his next move and block this square. This would not be wise because it's just too easy to defend, and also you really don't want to be adding points to your opponent when your opponent has more points. So probably looking between these two moves. In fact, this move seems to be the strongest to me. Just connecting the cities, renewing the threats of overrunning the big ruin. Well, it doesn't have to be a ruin, it could be a completable city actually. And since the Australian is a bit short on meeples at the moment, it could be difficult for Red to reinvade this city, which is why he goes the blocking route, so he's setting up the restriction of this square. But I think it is a miss for Red. A far stronger attempt of breaking the city was simply adding the cow tile over here, trying to put pressure against this square, potentially blocking 3 of Black meeples, this little road guy, and all the 2 city guys. Great move here from Black, proceeding with that blocking idea that I talked about earlier. So now Megot is 1 curve away from losing his meeple, does not get a defense tile, gets a city cap to score 6 points and get a meeples back, and a curve is drawn by Lord Trooper, who instantly places over here. Very nice combination from Black. So this meeple is now trapped, long-term meeple advantage for the Argentinian, and look at this. There's now a really big field brewing. Lots of green squares, 3 completed cities, already 9 points, and even though Black has the meeple advantage at the moment, no, Red has the meeple advantage at the moment, Black should be expecting to have a meeple advantage soon enough so that he can take advantage of this farming point. But not so fast. There is a move available for the Australian that can really mess with Black, and this move is to go over here. Try to now block this Black city. Potentially Red could even go on the farm first, and then play the rest of the game with 1 or 2 meeples. Let's see if he pulls the trigger on it. There's some alternative for Red, maybe going at the bottom and trying to put additional pressure on the square, but a great find here from Megot. 9 points for the farmer, and the obstruction of this city is really, really painful. So what does Black do here? Well, Black at the top just needs to not do anything and simply wait for a splitter tile. Either like this, getting himself a meeple back, because he's really going to need to get that meeple majority back to fight and eventually overrun the field. Or maybe a splitter like this. Then with a Dorito combo, he could get himself an 8-point city, or even a 10-point city with a shielded Dorito, and get a meeple back to him that way. Of course, he needs another Dorito over here, but that is a different story. A bit of a cautious move from Black. He was debating whether it was worth to spend his last meeple on a 7-point monastery, and that was enticing for sure, but he decided to simply get himself a meeple back from this 2-point road. It's a close call. That seems like the responsible thing to do, although this road, the monastery, scored so much that I would have just done it as red and as black, and then I would have just claimed that red does not have enough time to block both my road and the monastery. Red, with now a dangerous tile, can keep putting pressure on this black meeple here. Hi Napamai, hi Ian. Napamai saying congrats Alexey on the result in your group. Thank you very much. Napamai is referring to my yesterday night's win, a difficult win, a comeback win actually, against the Japanese master Koki Yamaguchi, helping me to finish with a 5-0 record and the first place in the group. So which means that I don't have to play in the round of 24, I can go straight to the round of 16. And because I don't have to play in the round of 24, I have more time to stream other people's matches. Megot with a scoring tile decides to go straight for the blocking approach. I don't like that idea. It seems to be a bit impatient, and not only because Black drew the connection tile, but simply because as red, you really don't have a lot of scoring options with just one meeple for probably the rest of the game or a long part of the game. So when you get a quick point tile, you gotta use it. And then on your next move, you can try your blocking ideas. Now, Lionel here is thinking whether it is worth to meeple this 4-point road. The answer to this is no, because there is no real risk of red scoring 4 points for this road, given the fact that black has meeples and red doesn't. Red get himself a meeple back from the city. Black with not a great tile, really cannot do much with it, but it's an interesting decision. So first of all, of course, he's not going to go over here and mess up his own city. The choice is either to go here and simply discard it, or to go over here and maybe try later blocking this square. Because I was talking about the idea of black drawing a splitter and separating his city from the right. The same idea also is valid for red. Red can get a splitter and separate his city on the left, which would also give him some more field points and a meeple to play with, and that's really something that we want to avoid as the Argentinian player. So we could go over here, then get another cow tile perhaps, go over here, and then restrict this square. The downside of this move is that it would make this here square more vulnerable, and as you remember, as black, we need a splitter tile here to try and finish our little construction project with 8 or 10 points like this. I would still go for it. First of all, because it adds us 2 immediate points, and second, because there are actually not that many blocking tiles for this square. But it's not an obvious decision. He decides to go for a more direct approach, which actually is probably even better. Look at this, and Megot had a splitter. So black here, with excellent intuition maybe, or as the Carcassonne brothers would call it, inspiration, kind of almost knowing what your opponent's next tile is, and they sacrifice a point just to make sure that red can't separate there. But red has a great use for the splitter. He can now deal with the city threat. Probably a move that I expect is just going over here and meepling the city like this, trying to equalize it. I'm not sure it is the best move, but the city is looking pretty dangerous. And if we go over here as black, as red rather, then there's still 3 Dorito tiles that can complete the connection. and neutralize the city and give us 2 meeples back. So I wonder if they go for it. If they don't, there are some other alternatives. Yeah, they decide to go for it. Okay, so we're having ourselves a constant move. 3 Dorito tiles that fit over here, but also 1 splitter available for black to still preserve the bigger city for himself. This, of course, would win them the game on the spot. Black with an extender tile. Now having an interesting idea for themselves. Why don't they just go over here and try to have a large city at the top, whilst Megot is waiting for the whole game for one of these 3 Dorito tiles? I don't think we even need to obstruct him or anything. So there's like a less than 10% chance that he's going to draw that tile on the next move. So we have free reign to just build our own stuff. And if we go over here, then suddenly instead of separating the city from the right, we can get a new Dorito and with a couple of Doritos and a city cap actually complete the city at the top. And black recognizes this idea. This city looks very clunky, but in fact it is very, very completable. Also, what did I say about less than 10% chance? How about 100% chance? Megot with an instant draw of a Dorito tile neutralizes the threat of Lord Trooper and gives himself back 2 meeples to play with. Of course, 2 extra meeples for the Argentinian as well, but a 4-2 meeple advantage is nowhere near as dangerous as a 2-0 meeple advantage. Black with a scoring tile, still a good position and a lot of options. Probably looking to just take 2 quick points, or maybe we can sacrifice 1 point and just go here and start building towards a completable city. If this were a different type of city cap, if this were something like a regular vanilla city cap, then I would have probably done this. But the reason why I really don't like this idea over here is because of this road end. It exposes a connection platform with more option for red. Oh, you know what? Actually, we could go here and try to go for, yeah, there we go, he finds it. So look at this. Black sacrifices a point, he scores 1 point instead of 2, but he covers up a potential invasion square to this city. And then he's looking for a Dorito here and 2 city caps over here, or simply your usual 3 Dorito pattern like this, plus another Dorito over here. This is, of course, a lot of Doritos in 1 sentence, but there's still 4 of those remaining in the deck, so it is doable, albeit unlikely. Thank you, Nicholas, for sharing that there's going to be a friendly match between Belgium and Croatia, which I can tell in advance I will sadly not be able to stream because of the timing. Also, it is a bit early that the WTCOC preseason starts already in February. Typically, it's like March stuff. So there's really going to be a lot to cover while the Champions League is still going on. That said, next week, when the playoffs start, it should be way, way less busy because 24 players will have been eliminated. So we're going to have half as many matches, actually even less. We're going to have only 8 matches this week. Next week, rather, as opposed to 24 matches this week. Red gets himself a second farmer for 6 points to support his main guy. I love this move from the Australian. It is exactly how you play Meeple Minority. So you get a stronghold on the field, and then it's just difficult for Black to find invasion spots. Well, actually, no, it's not so difficult. Black just goes here, here, gets a road monastery, and steamrolls this guy. But the reason why I like this move is not just because of the farmer, it's also because it puts a lot of pressure on this square and it forces Black into a decision. Do we go over here and complete the connection as soon as possible and risk getting blocked with any big tile towards the square with this pattern? Or do we protect the city first and then delay the connection, in which case we risk not getting the connection in the first place, and Black decides that getting the city points and securing the city points is more important than preserving the threat of its completion. And also, it's not like Red has to have a blocking tile in hand. Turns out is that they don't. Now they need to make a difficult decision between just going over here and scoring 4 points for the road, which is what you should be doing with one meeple, or maybe going here or here, trying to obstruct the city of black further. Over here at the top is also an option. But there's still 2 tiles remaining to finish the city, so probably as red, I still want to wait. With 5 extra points on the scoreboard and an extra monastery and an extra long road, red is actually significantly ahead, but still 30 tiles to play, and these 3 meeples will score. There are scoring opportunities. So of course, multiple farmers, then the road monastery. Well, let's assume from black's perspective that the road monastery is going to be drawn by red, so maybe we can discount that. But still, plenty of invasion squares. There is now a 6-point field for black to occupy, so it really pays to have meeples in this position. This also means that you really want to take every single quick point you can get as red. Black, in the meantime, adds a city cap to their city, secures this square, neutralizes a blocking threat, but exposes another dangerous square at the top, which was inevitable and it was necessary, and it will undoubtedly be now exploited by red. The move is to go over here, leaving only 1 tile to complete the city, namely the left-handed dagger like this. You really don't want to leave this alone because there are currently multiple more tiles that fit into the square. There's still 2 starting tiles available. So first of all, you go over here, you leave only a 50-50 chance of the city being completed, and then you try and build up and kill off the remaining 50%. And a heavy mistake from Megot, which is really just shocking, to be honest. It appears to be simply a tile counting mistake. There are still 2 starting tiles left to fit into the square, and there's definitely just 1 dagger, so turning this curve the other way would have reduced the chances of completing the city to 50%, and now it's 75%. So this means that red cannot really hope to draw both starting tiles. He will need to go here and try to block this permanently. And he tries to do just this by foregoing a monastery and scoring 2 points for a road, but Lord Trooper can cover up easily, and I believe he should do that. 75% is a great probability to have, so now it's something that red will need to worry like for the rest of the game. So red only wins if he gets both starting tiles, and even then is not guaranteed because the city still scores quite a bit. Then this farmer will not be able to support the main farmer because red chose not to use the road monastery over here, which actually makes sense from red's perspective. So let's see what red does here. Probably looking to play some blocking moves, either against this city, leaving only 1 dagger to complete this guy at the very least, or against this city at the top. This move certainly seems to be more potent. Instead, he hopes to play against the farmer of black, which is one way to go. But it doesn't really work out very often. Well, now a great blocking tile from Megot. He can actually go over here and block this meeple completely because there's also only 1 dagger of its kind remaining. So if we just go over here, then this meeple will be permanently trapped. I know he might be tempted to go here and block this square, but it's just something that we have to do later rather than now. Because if you manage to block this guy, then at the very least you ensure that you probably do win with a draw of both starting tiles, because you both have 1 meeple, maybe we get to block this guy as well, and then suddenly black has not a lot to play with. Red is still ahead on the scoreboard. So I know his mind is telling him to go here, and mind wins. His heart was telling him to go here and continue blocking the square, but the correct find here from red, blocking this meeple, so this guy's never seeing the light of day. Not that it is a problem. This structure is where all the money is for black. So now a cow tile for Mr. Lord here. A bit of an awkward tile to place, really not many scoring opportunities, but I see a couple of strong moves available. We could continue our city at the top, knowing that there's still some tiles to continue this into a bigger city a little bit. This would also make this meeple a little bit less vulnerable to blocks. In fact, any straight line against this square could be really damaging, because we're running really short on city plus road tiles. There are of course 2 starting tiles remaining, but we need them over here. This was the last left-handed dagger of its kind, and there's only 1 right-handed dagger remaining. So probably this is my move of choice. But I also like this idea. Actually, no, this idea. Just restricting red's little fields, not allowing red an easy field development idea. Red's now sadly miscounting tiles. Red thinks that he wants to block this guy, perhaps not realizing that this guy is already blocked. And the reason why this move is a mistake is because red is hurting his own field in the process, taking away a green square for himself. In the meantime, black is trying to build up a city at the top. This is why having meeples is so nice, because you get to build stuff with them and your opponent really can't do much. So it's a difficult decision here from red, whether to just simply score 3 points or try and sacrifice 4 points and go over here and try to prevent black from completing a city. 3 points is the choice here for the Australian, one with which I agree, and it pays off, as Mr. Lord does not get himself a city cap just yet, but what he does get is a tile to connect to the main field and equalize the 12 points that this red guy was having. Strategic significance of this field invasion. There's really not a lot that red can do in this position, short of course drawing both starting tiles for this square, and maybe going over here, building up his field at the bottom. He could get the monastery over here, then get a tile over here to make this 6-point field merge his 6-point field on the left. He could get some city caps and maybe get some more quick points. And then at the very end of the game, he could just drop a sneaky farmer here and here, and with his last meeple invade, but oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. We see a panic move, sadly, from red, which loses them the game on the spot. It is a move which I've seen a lot. Like, when player A invades player B's field, player B sort of starts to panic and then tries to reinvade immediately with their last meeple, but this, of course, is not the best meeple management, because there's still a necessity to have a meeple for quick points. There's still a crossroads available, there's still some city caps, and you really need those extra 3 points from this farm. So even if this red guy invades the main field, with 14 tiles remaining, and a 1-0 meeple advantage, Mr. Lord here should have enough stuff to outscore. This guy also gets blocked, by the way, as there are no road monasteries to fill in either of those squares, and sadly, there won't be much of a fight in this game. Now, what red should have done is just gone over here, then with the same curve, they could have gone over here and added 3 points to this field. They would have also denied black to score 6 points for this field, and they would have still preserved the same threat until the end of the game. For example, a combo which works absolutely lovely is starting tile plus starting tile. Because like from red's perspective, you also need to be thinking that in order to win, you have to draw both starting tiles, so you really don't want to be hoping for any kind of other tiles. The more crucial tiles there are in your win condition, the less likely that win condition it is to occur. So you want to make sure that you try and use those starting tiles that you supposedly want to draw in a productive way in other parts of the board. And recognizing that starting tiles can be used as either blocking tiles over here against this city, or simply as straight lines for invasion was the key to figuring out that the patient approach was the way to go. Now red, of course, tries to develop his field at the bottom, not that it will matter that much. Well, actually, I think red is technically still ahead, but this won't be the case for long. Red gets the final dagger, which he will use for sure to extend his field at the bottom. This move from Lord here simply tries and save some scoring opportunities for himself, given the fact that there's still one vanilla city cap remaining. So red, of course, is still as ahead in point. Like, I haven't counted exactly by how much, but the monastery and the extra field and the road and the scoreboard, this all adds up. But black has these two, let's say, potentially ruins. But black has other ways to win other than simply drawing both starting tiles. For example, getting the vanilla city cap here and then dropping a 6-point farmer could also be potent enough. Well, the first starting tile is drawn by Megot, which he probably wants to use over here to merge the two fields, but a great setup here for Mr. Lord. He'll manage to score some quick points. And then 33% chance to draw the second starting tile. So the vanilla city cap is drawn by Megot Noskill. So Mr. Lord will not be able to take advantage of these 6 points. 1 point ahead on the scoreboard is the lead for the Australian. But a starting tile is drawn for black, something that, of course, we should have statistically expected. A large city and a 4-point road. Well, a bit of a miss here by scoring a 3-point farmer instead. Not that it will matter necessarily. Yeah, note there was also this tile as well available for black to finish his sizable city at the top. So there was really no way for Mr. Megot to avoid all these scoring opportunities. Yeah, so actually black set himself up to even win without the starting tile, because like black had the city cap to score this 6 points over here, the extender to score these 16 points over here, actually 22, because if you're gonna drop a farmer, then what else? Of course, these 4 points were taken by black as a result of this lovely setup in a straight line. So even if red were to draw the starting tile, then just black would have drawn something else. Wise May is saying patience seems to be Megot's biggest issue. This is certainly the case. I have seen them lose a match like this against another Lord, against Lord Terrycloth of the UK, a match that was also on stream where just these sort of panic farmers result in an even longer term meeple disadvantage. So let's see what the scoreboard difference is. It's actually surprisingly not that many, because red will be scoring 9 points extra compared to black. And look at this, just 6 points is the difference. Well, I guess 7 points would have been with slightly more precise play from the Argentinian. But yeah, very, very well played by Lionel here, managing to, first of all, block this meeple, having the discipline with a city cap, then finding another blocking sequence, and then just exploiting his meeple majority by creating threats everywhere. Also, I love the fact that this was the main threat for a long while, and then as red invested to equalize that threat, then suddenly the threat shifted to a different part of the board. This is also what also happens very often in Carcassonne, that you can threaten one thing and then suddenly shift to another whilst your opponent is preoccupied with the first thing, and it was just enough to put the Argentinian over the edge. So Lord Trooper 1, Megot Noskill 0. So the Australian has to win this second game if he wants to preserve the chances to be number 1 in the group. Oh, now I notice that I'm dealing with a bit of a sunlight issue. Actually, there's just so much sunlight in the room that I thought that I like covered up all the windows, but there's one little teeny tiny window, which is like 100 square centimeters at most, which I didn't cover up because it's so far away, that is now giving like this huge spot on the left. So this is what happens because I'm not used to streaming this early in the morning. Typically I have the opposite problem of there being not enough light. Okay, the players appear to be taking a tiny break, which gives us enough time to update the scoreboard. And the second game has started. The Australian, playing the red meeples again, now with the starting player advantage, already took 4 points for the city cap. Black responds with a 2-point road. The statistical advantage should certainly help red here, who now starts yet another city. A road tile for Mr. Lord. Actually an interesting situation here. There are 2 moves available. One is just meepling this road straight up, which is what I would do. Another is this approach, trying to go for a 6-point loop. I prefer the slightly more aggressive approach, even though it sort of messes up the shape of your opponent's road. It does take out the longest road on the board. It puts pressure against this square, but this 6-point loop certainly also makes sense. A city cap for black, who uses it to take advantage of the empty shielded tile and start a potentially 10-point city. Straight line for black now goes for this loop pattern and resists a farmer. In the meantime, Megot completes a city at the bottom and starts putting pressure against this square. It just does not quite get the right tile to do it. A Dorito for red, presumably going to go over here and invade Black City, but it could be tempting to forego that invasion for a while, since Black City is a little bit vulnerable. And that's why he decides to do exactly that. It's an interesting move for sure. Not that one I would have played with 10 points ahead on the scoreboard. I probably would have preferred a lower variance move, but actually for black it is really annoying to deal with because this pattern, like city plus field here and city plus field here, it's actually quite easily blockable. And there's really not at all much that Mr. Lord can do about this. Well, this is not the craziest move in this position. Hoping to get yourself a city cap and then maybe a dagger, but if you do go over here, sometimes in some scenarios you actually even get 2 meeples blocked. But he goes for this. It makes sense. It makes sense. Oh, no, 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 no! Lionel, how could you? Like, it's a decent defense, but it only works if you meeple the road. Without the road meeples, then like, this black meeple here is toast. The reason why you have to meeple the road is you want to not allow your opponent to create an easy blocking platform. Because now, like, all red can do, he can just go over here, start a new road for himself, which is a move that he's going to play anyway, and now it's going to come with a threat of blocking this move permanently. Whereas if you leave this road just normally, then your opponents cannot place anything over here productively because they would be just adding a point to your road. Well, extremely fortunate draw here for Mr. Lord, who managed to get a defensive tiles. There are now still 3 tiles that fit into this square and still 3 tiles into this, but the Australian renews the blocking threat. Now this square is vulnerable. Black does not draw a defense. He gets a monastery, which of course can be used for scoring, maybe over here, controlling Red's road, or over here at the top, controlling 2 of Red's meeples, even better. Red, in the meantime, does not get a blocking tile, probably looking to continue his road. Thinking about that one? Well, this is because it's actually not obvious how to continue his road. He could go for the direct approach, which he, I think, used last game. He can also go for this, the 6-point loop. I presume that he will be less inclined for the 6-point loop approach, given the fact that the quadruple crossroad tile has already been drawn, and so it is a bit more easy to block road meeples. More easy. Easier. Easier is the word to use. In any case, Mr. Lord, with a difficult tile to play, a city tile, which he can either use to go over here and start breaking Red City, or maybe going over here for an indirect defense of his own city. But would that be a true defense? That's a great question, actually. So he would probably need to spend 2 minutes just counting all the tiles and assessing the probabilities. So let's say if you go over here with the curve pointing upwards for an indirect defense, you're eliminating a lot of blocking tiles. So for example, you're actually not allowing your opponent to draw a city tile, such as a Dorito, a city cap, a cow, an extender, to block your square. But you're also eliminating defense tiles. Now a straight line does not fit anymore for you to defend the critical square. So do you just ignore the square and allow more blocking tiles and more defense tiles, or do you go over here and allow fewer blocking tiles and fewer defense tiles? There is an answer to this, and the answer is yes, you do go over here. That's a great move here from Lord Trooper. The reason for this move, even though it will end up not working, but it's still a very good move, even though you're removing a lot of defense tiles from yourself, you're removing way more blocking tiles from your opponent, just because there's so many city plus field tiles in the deck. It just so happens that Red draws one of the 5 remaining curves, which will undoubtedly go over here. I wonder why Red seems to be thinking about this. Maybe that's a bit of a slow roll, a little gloat. Haha, your meeple is trapped. Sometimes when I get a tile, which can... Okay, you have to be kidding me. I'm really not sure what to make of this. I think we just saw like a little glitch or something. So it's not that Red doesn't think that blocking this meeple is not worth it. I think that Red just literally forgot that the curve fits into this square. And it's like a psychological glitch which can sort of be understandable, because you saw that your opponent played an indirect defense move, you think that it restricts the square, which it does, and then you think, well, now a curve fits here for defense. Except that you have to go, wait, but a curve fits here for blocking anyway. But still, like, at this level, with Megot's experience, you really shouldn't be making blunders like these. So, if there's justice in Carcassonne, then Lord should draw a curve for defense, and he should draw another tile that fits over here for finishing his city. But there is no justice in Carcassonne. And you know what? Megot still has 4 tiles, actually 5 tiles available to recognize his mistake and then go and make the blocking move a little bit later. All right, and now it's time to... I know that the chat is going to have a field day with that one. But anyway, back to commenting. I'm pretty sure that like black cannot believe his luck. In the meantime, black just builds up his monasteries at the top, also exposing this vulnerable square in Megot City. Really, Megot cannot do much. It's a good move, starting a new city, prolonging his road. Now Mr. Lord has interesting options. This is a really, really tricky tile to play. So first of all, there is a way to completely protect his city. If black goes over here, then he blocks the blocking square in such a way that makes it impossible to block his city at all, and then he will have completely protected his city. But then if you've seen your opponent draw a blocking tile, and not use it, it is not unreasonable to actually forego this move. So this is the objectively best move, I think, because it protects your meeple so well and so on. But like, you're playing against a human, who just made a mistake. So it was super tempting to just make a scoring move, maybe going over here for 2 points, maybe going over here, breaking red city, like stuff like this. So this move in a vacuum is the best, but it would have been interesting to see black trying to exploit maybe some blind spot in red's board vision here. But still, a lovely move, of course. Lord Terrycloth pointing in the chat that this move by Megot actually provided this defense opportunity for Mr. Lord. Yeah, this is true, although for red this move made a lot of sense because red is simply trying to build a big city, which now will be prevented as black drew a splitter tile to invade. However, red is still ahead on the scoreboard, like 15 points as a result of this long road and a couple of city caps, and there's still a chance for either red or black to draw the second splitter, go like this, and then with a cow or a horse tile, overrun the city with a 2-1 majority. Black with a scoring tile. And a variety of interesting options. So option one, we go over here, and then we could or could not start a new city. Probably we forego the new city for now, but the point of going over here is pre-building a 4-point road, which goes through our city, which only we can meeple upon completion. And this would be my choice, to score as aggressively as possible. Option two would be going over here, simply building up our monasteries and trying to meeple this city upon the completion of our monastery. There were some other options available, but option one is the choice for Mr. Lord, really banking on the 88% chance of drawing a dagger tile for the square. Red with a scoring tile is going to take 3 points, I have no doubt, and then creates some volatility in the position, an evil hamster spot. Whoever gets the monastery first is going to gain easy 9 points from this square. Splitter tile for Mr. Lord, and he goes for this pattern. Still 3 tiles remaining for him to complete an 18-point city on the spot and 4 tiles to just complete the connection. I love this pattern over here. Will it end up working? We will find out soon enough, as red, of course, attempts to block this. Black with a chance to build up his monasteries and commit an indirect defense. Quite an easy decision for Black. Red now, of course, is going to draw city plus road tile and very easily reinvade the spot, which will put Black into a difficult position. Black, in fact, will have to draw the quadruple city tile to equalize his 2 1-pointers with the better developed part of Red City. This does not mean that this was not worth trying. Red, of course, has to meeple this. He has to get insurance against this guy getting the quadruple city tile. Now a starting tile for Lord. A couple of moves available here. He could go over here, which would probably be my move of choice. Obstructing the city of Red. There's just a slight imprecision, actually quite a big imprecision. When you do stuff like this, you always leave the city cap open. You have 1 meeple, you can't afford to be doing stuff like this when there are multiple scoring spots on the board. When there's a 9-point monastery like this, you keep a meeple on you at all times. Imagine what a disaster it's going to be if Lionel gets a monastery and then he has to forego 9 points. The quadruple city tile goes for Mr. Lord. A hugely important tile for his game, but now we're gonna see the weakness of this move. Megot undoubtedly will use the curve over here to restrict options for this Black meeple and keep Black without meeples for longer. Or maybe doubtedly, he chooses to get himself a monastery meeple back, and a huge sigh of relief, I was going to say, as well. Very, very interesting decision here from Lord Trooper. Chooses to get his monastery meeple before his city meeple, creating this huge platform for invading this shared city, which is immediately used by the Australian. And now there are no splitter tiles available to separate Black from Red, but Black gets meeple just in time to score 9 points for the monastery to keep it in the game. Scoring tile for Megot. Presumably wants to score a couple of points, or maybe there is something stronger. How about we go over here, we start a loop road, and we indirectly protect both of our cities. We protect this square because it is now virtually impossible for Black to draw a tile for reinvasion. Black would need to draw the last remaining left-handed dagger, which is very difficult to do. And we also make it impossible for Black to place a tile over here to start and block our city. But this move was not found by Megot. Instead, just going for a normal 2-pointer. No shame in that necessarily. Black continues his city on the right, still leaves the threats on the left intact. Red, with a double city cap, has a variety of options. Option 1 is just going over here, leaving himself 2 tiles for invasion. Not something that I would do. A stronger move would probably be going over here, either starting a new city or even dropping a farmer, and then playing against this monastery a little bit and still preserving the threat of completing the city. The reason why I don't like this move for Red, even though it makes sense, with only 2 tiles available to fit into this square, it gives plenty of time for Black to draw a sequence that blocks this invasion, or Black could simply draw both of these 2 tiles outright. There's only a 25% chance of this happening, but as Red, you have to be happy with your position, so you really don't want to take unnecessary risk. Black continues to sit on the right, and Red with a fantastic monastery tile. A variety of good options. Could just use it for quick points at the bottom. Could just go over here for a 6-point monastery spot. But my favorite move by far is going over here for a 4-point monastery, pre-building a road that goes through Red City that only the Reds can benefit from, with 2 dagger tiles available. That would have been a setup for a boatload of points. Instead, he goes for a 5-point monastery controlling Black City, which also makes sense. Now, of course, he could go over here and protect his own city, but I would have preferred a bit of a different move order here. Because if you go over here, then the protection is not as potent, because the road that is going through Red City will not have been completed on one side. But I wonder if Black cares about this, if Red cares about this meeple at all. Red can just go over here and try to play against Black's city here. Now that Black has completed a monastery and has gotten himself a meeple advantage, as well as a farmer, then Black's position is suddenly not so bad. So Red tries to play against Black's city. Black really can't do much about it, or at least they shouldn't. Probably going at the bottom and trying to play against Red's other city would be my choice. Definitely defending here is not something that's at all worth it. Because you're not defending a meeple, you're just defending points. That something needs to be realized by the play with the Black meeples. I think many players will spend too many resources defending their cities next to their opponent's monasteries, not realizing that their meeple blocked is not such a big deal. It's just a losing mini battle. And this is something that Black realizes, maybe not in the way that I would have hoped for. It's definitely a good idea to try and create a blocking platform against this square. It's just maybe a lack of knowledge of tactics. The chance of this move working out is really, really low. As Black, you gotta stay patient and wait for a city tile, and then you can try and block the square towards a quadruple city tile. Because before you sacrifice points and you make a panic move like this, as Black, you actually got to ask yourself, you got to visualize, like, after I play this, what kind of tile at all goes here for a completed block? And the answer is, okay, well, one of the two row Doritos is what I'm realistically hoping for. And then you also got to ask yourself, what kind of tiles does my opponent have for a defense? And the answer is any row tile and any city tile. So literally anything in the deck except the one regular monastery. So if you want to see how to play against the triple city threats, I suggest you go and rewatch the finals of the 2023 World Championship, as painful as it is to rewatch for me. There was a moment where I had a huge threat for an 18-point city and I needed the triple city tile to fit into a square like this. And then my opponent, Matt Tucker, waited a real long time, didn't do anything with the square. I didn't draw my triple city tile, and then he waited for a city tile to go there, and with a Dorito plus Dorito sequence, equalized that square. Had he done this way earlier, like with a row tile or something, I would have had an easy defense, just like Megot Noskill got now, and then the outcome of the game would have been much different. So that was quite an instructive exercise in patience, but Mr. Lord now gets a fantastic tile. Well, first of all, he gets one of the two tiles that Megot needed for this square. Now he can also use the fact that all the horse tiles have been spent, and he can actually go over here and block the square completely, which is exactly what happens. And of course, this 5-point road and an obstruction of this city will certainly help, but the Australian is crawling back. He's now consolidating his city, and I expect a Dorito to go down here any second. Before placing a Dorito here, of course, he wants to double check whether there's articulation. Before placing a Dorito over here, he wants to double check whether why weather is such a difficult word. He wants to double check whether there is a sufficient number of city cap tiles that fit into this square, and the answer is yes, there are. In the meantime, Black draws a dagger tile to take advantage of the 4 points that he had previously set up and bring his city closer to completion. There is one still vanilla city cap in the deck that goes over here for 10 points and a meeple back. Black now 7 points ahead on the scoreboard. Megot needs to urgently create some threat. Ideally, of course, he's hoping for something like a starting tile over here to finish the city and drop a farmer, but this tile is not drawn by red, it is drawn by black. And an interesting choice. Do you go here and finish your own city? Or do you go here and break your opponent? Or do you go here and just take 4 points elsewhere? Black decides to score his own points first. This allows Megot to get his own meeple back, but a black farmer for 6 points will certainly help the Argentinians' winning chances. Red is debating whether it is worth dropping a farmer. And the answer is no for him, given the fact that there's still many scoring spots and farming spots available on the board. Mr. Lord with a shielded Dorito tile has a variety of options. Could go over here for a 6-point ruin. Could go over here, taking out a city cap and threatening an 8-point city. Or could over here, threatening a 5-point road and covering up his field from potential invasions. He could also go over here and pre-meeple... Wait, never mind. This is part of black's field. Never mind. You see, before this tile was here, this field was still separated from black's field. But now this tile is here, and this field is now part of black's field. That's why it was so important for black to draw a start, for red to draw a starting tile or some sort of city tile here early enough, so that he can drop a farmer in anticipation of this dagger tile and equalize black's farm. Now, an incredibly difficult position for the Australian. He's down on the scoreboard, he's down on the field. His main threat of the game of overrunning the big ruin is no longer a real threat, and it is not even his turn. Black, start a new city, calculating that there's a sufficient number of city caps to threaten an 8-pointer. Actually, I'm not sure about that. Well, there's one dagger that fits here, I guess. Probably still worth going for it, or so he decides. Mr. Megot can respond with the same. He can just do this, or maybe this is a little bit more powerful, creating a threat to get a city cap, get a meeple back and drop a farmer, which of course will be neutralized immediately by black. There's no doubt that this cow tile will be added to a red city. In casual games, when players play these sort of blocking moves, they sometimes like, oh, I'm going to donate you a point. Look at my generosity. And there was absolutely no doubt that this was going to be the move. It's just black was deciding whether it's worth to rotate the cow tile this way or the other way. This is the chosen orientation, and I think technically Megot could even go over here and renew the threat of completing the city, but not really, because there isn't a city cap that fits into this square. So probably a 4-pointer over here or 4-pointer over here with a subsequent 9-point field would be the move. It also needs to be pointed out that this is the last city cap that would fit for this square. So despite all these wonderful cover-ups and adventures surrounding the city, this black meeple will be permanently trapped with 4 points. Not that this is necessarily a problem for the Argentinian. Also a great draw for red, because this guy at the top also has 1 fewer tile to complete his 8-point city. Red decides to use the city cap as a farming platform, trying to invade the main 9-point field of the game. But I don't think it's a good move at all, because think about this. So he's going to score, even if he's successful, he's going to score 10 points with this move. So 1 point for the city, plus 1 point with the road. Oh no, wait, plus 9 points with the field, obviously. But if you just go here and score 4 points, and then you drop a farmer on a 6-point field, 4 plus 6 is also 10. You're scoring the same, except you're doing so with 0 risk. Because at this moment, this red meeple can still be blocked. This is also something that many players just don't do. The simple calculation of points that will result from a field attack, rather than just seeing field looks big, me fight. But so far a great tile for the Australians, scoring 5 points, 4 for the city, 1 for the monastery, and Mr. Lord successfully blocks, I'm gonna presume, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, wait. Is that a block? It's definitely a restriction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's still one tile that fits into the square. So probably the Australian can still hope for something like this, get 4 points, also rejoice the fact that this guy is not finishing his city. And then we can still hope for the last straight line to connect. Let me just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's still one straight line available. Red is thinking about that one. And 4 points are in fact scored. Now Lord Trooper has a variety of good moves available to him, but what is the most precise? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are no curves available, but if there were, this would have been a fun move, kind of guaranteeing himself a re-invasion in case of a successful invasion of red. So probably going to see a 6-point farmer maybe. Actually, this here does seem to be the strongest move. It takes 6 points straight up. It maybe threatens a 9-point farm if there is a tile to do so, but it also importantly, it takes out this 6-point farm from consideration by his opponents. No Dorito tiles, no monasteries, no splitters, no vanillas. In fact, yeah, there's no tile anymore that could expand his field. But still, 6 points are 6 points are 6 points are 6 points are 6 points. Of course, he could also go over here for a 6-point monastery and then get himself 1 extra point. And this could be the way to go, given the fact that he should not be afraid of Megot meepling one of those fields, because Megot has... Oh no, he should actually. He should. So he goes for the 7-point monastery. For the 6-point monastery, rather, at least for now. Well, Megot does successfully invade the 9-point farm. Mr. Lord is going to get himself an extra point, I presume. And red is going to invade, not invade, but just meeple one of these farms. So it will actually be an endgame imprecision from the Argentinian player that will end up costing him 2 spread points. The reason why it was an imprecision, if only black had meepled a 6-point field here, he would not have left either farm open for his opponent to claim. And then red would have been forced to settle with a 4-point road. And we will find out soon enough if this 2-point mistake will make a difference in this game. it looks like it did not, and that the Australian player will be winning this one regardless with a 4-point difference. The best that Lionel could hope for is winning this with a losing this with a 2-point difference. Yeah, and in fact this means that Black could only win if he were to draw the straight line and deny Megot the farm invasion. So 4 points is the difference. The Australian strikes back, and this means that we get ourselves a decider, which actually is not a good thing because the other match has started, and I probably really want to watch both matches at the same time. So I'm just going to open the game between Posse 118 and RabbitRain. But these guys are not getting themselves any breaks, and I'm getting even more sunlight in the room. In the meantime, let's see if RabbitRain has started. Of course they have. RabbitRain now rated an obscene 829 rating points, which puts them only third in Board Game Arena in this moment. And it looks like the Checkmaster has the advantage with half the game gone through, 11 points extra on the scoreboard, now successfully neutralizing Black's threatening city, unless Red, of course, draws a splitter tile, of which there's only one remaining in the deck. Red, that's the Japanese player, with a relatively early farmer of 6 points, which will about to turn into a 9-point field if the Czech player chooses to complete his city, which I would expect him to do. Another option is to go for a content move and go over here and try to win a big city with a 3-2 majority. Is that something that Red is going to do? Maybe going over here, starting a city like this, and then re-invading. He could also potentially expand his farm. But I'm going to leave you with a cliffhanger because I also want to follow the decider of Lord Trooper Megot Noskill. And this looks very, very good for the Argentinian, with 2 early monasteries and 2 points and the starting player advantage. Of course, one of these monasteries is going to be equalized, but still an advantage for Black here. In the meantime, Red chooses the field route. He does not want to overcommit on this city. He maybe is waiting for a Dorito tile or some sort of big tile in order to do that, and he gets himself more city caps on his field. And now it actually puts Posse in a bit of a bind. So of course he goes here and tries to block RabbitRain's city, but this is a bit of a trap, because now that RabbitRain successfully gets himself a meeple back from completed city, this city now does not expose a field connection platform. You feel me, right? Imagine if this tile is not here, then if Red completes his city, then he's kind of forced to drop a second farmer to protect his main field, and then he's scoring 15 points with 2 meeples, which is still 7.5 per meeple. But now with this move, Red is taking advantage of the closed nature of this field, and he's threatening to draw a curve, cover up his field for 15 points, because eventually somebody's going to draw this city cap over here for just 1 meeple, no chance for reinvasion, and to rub it in a takeover of a gigantic road. And there's virtually nothing that Posse can do to prevent this. So what could we do? We could go over here, I guess, and take over the road ourselves as green. but then we're still giving back our opponent this 6-point road and a 15-point field. We could, of course, still go here and either drop a farmer or invade this road straight up, and this seems to be a bit more potent, but red can still draw a curve and easily cover up his field, or a crossroad straight up, separating our roads and still covering up their field. Yeah, so that's why as green, maybe this move was just a trap. Maybe you actually have to leave it alone, allow red to complete his city, but at the very least force them to drop a second farmer to protect their main field. Oh, this is a fascinating position. So, okay, this is our main position of focus. The decider between Argentina and Australia will have to be our side project. Although it is a pretty interesting position because the opening advantage of Lord Trooper is certainly now diminished due to the fact that this critical square almost blocks... Actually, no, it's not a big deal. So it blocks 2 blacks meeples, but it only blocks 1 meeple of red. And there's still 2 tiles that fit into the square, but Mr. Megot is trying to get themselves a chance to block 2 more of black's meeples, but immediately a defense is drawn. A city cap for the Australian presumably will go over here, finish a city, maybe even drop a farmer. Maybe that's what he's debating about. This will still leave 3 vanilla city cap for the Argentinian for this square. Curvy tile for Lord, developing his monastery. Deciding whether it's worth to drop a farmer. It's an interesting debate here, but I want to see what Posse did. And Posse decided to simply cut his losses, allow RabbitRain to have an uncontested 15-point field with just 1 meeple. It is incredible efficiency. And then as compensation, green wants to have this road, which he will, with 5 curves remaining. He also managed to draw some fortunate tiles, first of all scoring 3 points for this road and shortening the 6-point road of Rabbit to just 4. Then also this city cap was drawn by the Czech player, so he was able to clean it off, netting himself 1 point. And not allowing a 7-point move for RabbitRain here. Yeah, and now the position is kind of equal, maybe still an advantage for the Czech player. But wait, it's actually really, really equal because look at this. So 14 points is the scoreboard difference. And both sides have 1 blocked meeple. This guy's blocked for 15 points and this guy's blocked for 1 point. So a 14 points difference. So this is a complete wash. But this position is good for green, because green is ultimately going to take over this road, and red has a city project here, which is sort of kind of vulnerable. But if RabbitRain has 1 strength, and he has many, I would have to say that one of his main strengths is just recognizing city building patterns. This is also something that Japanese masters in general are incredibly, incredibly good at. Kithra, Pintertron, like all of these guys can see city completion patterns from really, really far away. So when red places this move, he knows for sure, like, is he going for 3 Doritos? Is he going for 3 city caps? Or is he going for something more elaborate like this? So I'm pretty sure that he's visualizing this in advance. In the meantime, a sigh of relief for our Czech fans as the idea of taking a splitter for red and separating their 16-point city from green's invasion attempt is no longer possible, as this tile makes sure that the city here is equalized. And now it is possible for either player to start to fight for big ruin, maybe going over here, meepling some sort of an extender, or maybe going over here, meepling some sort of a Dorito. Actually, it is kind of difficult to invade the city from either side. There are really not many tiles that go into this square, and there are not many tiles that go into this square either. And even if one side draws the last remaining giraffe's neck, then they're probably not going to even bother invading. They're just going to go over here for an easy 8-point city. Monastery for the Czech player, not many good spots. He could go over here for 4 points, banking on a 5th point from the curve, and this is probably what I would do. But then this would put him at just 1 meeple for a while. Also, a curve was recently drawn by Mr. Rabbit here, leaving only 3 curves in the deck for the completion of this road. But then as green, if you don't get this curve, you probably lose the game anyway, so why don't you just go over here and double down on this bet? And this is exactly what happens. But another curve is drawn by the Japanese player, leaving only 2 available in the deck. Still 75% chance, but it could be quite a long wait. In the meantime, the Australian player is getting themselves a scoreboard advantage and a meeple advantage against the Argentinian, but overall still a great position for black. This monastery has been nicely covered up with 2 tiles still fitting in this square, still 2 tiles fitting for this square, but a bit harder for this road meeple to survive. But still 3 tiles that fit into this square, and they will come in a great effect. We're gonna have 9 points for this monastery, 6 points for the city cap, 6 points for the farmer. So it's just a ticking time bomb. Mr. Lord with a scoring tile, debating whether it is worth to start this city, and the answer to that, with 4 Doritos remaining, is probably marginally still yes, although there are other moves available to him. So overall, a good position for black, but he will need to draw this tile soon enough to get himself some meeples back. In the meantime, the Japanese player is still thinking what to do with this curve. Decides to take out some scoring options, albeit unsuccessfully, as 4 quick points are added to the Czech player's scoreboard. But a chance to score for Mr. Rabbit here as well. Although it's really not obvious. Do you go over here? Score 2 points as far away as possible, and this is what he does. He could have also gone over here, just messing with this square a little bit more. He could have also ignored the 4 points and gone over here and tried to build himself a bigger city, which appears to be not the way to go since we're running very short on big tiles. And it seems to me that 3 Doritos plus this city cap is the pattern that the Japanese player is hoping for. 2 quick points in return for green, and a 3rd point from this monastery, but a fantastic draw. Yet another curve for RabbitRain, leaving only 1 tile that fits into this square. Will he pull off a 3%er? If I'm not mistaken, at the time of this road invasion, there were still 5 curves remaining for 97% chance of invasion. Pussy with a city cap, probably looking to build up his monastery. That's actually kind of an easy move, just going here. In the meantime, Lionel did muster the courage to start a city at the bottom, and it is currently paying off, as it is only 1 tile away from completion. There are still 3 Doritos in the deck and 1 splitter to accomplish that. And finally, the magic, almost game-winning, but at least an advantage-gaining tile for the Argentinian. We can share the dopamine burst that he's currently experiencing from all these completed features. 9 points for the monastery, 6 points for the city, 6 points for the farm, meeple advantage, 20 extra points on the scoreboard, and now a difficult position for the Australian despite a long-term meeple majority. But maybe me got no skill, but me got some plans. You can go over here for 10, 11 points, something like this, and then he could just simply threaten the completion of this city. It's not an easy task, but why don't we just try it? This is a great tile for Lord, though, as he can simply develop his farm, keep building points, and in some scenarios, even if the city gets completed, Black has just enough to outrun Red's threats, especially if Black manages to get himself a Dorito tile for his little construction project at the bottom. In the meantime, a bit of an unusual move from Posey here, a move which I don't understand at all, and it has to be an imprecision. So it is of course a good idea to use a city cap next to his monastery, but this move was a little bit stronger. Just because his square next to his monastery would have been less restricted in a couple of scenarios. Now it actually won't matter because there's only one curve remaining and green needs it in 2 spots. So green will not be getting this monastery meeple back. And look at this. RabbitRain is foregoing quick points. He's really going for the completion of the city. And he's really going for this triple Dorito pattern. And his plan is to make sure that his opponent can do nothing much about it. Which is not true. I guess Posey can go here and make it almost impossible for Mr. Rabbit to complete his city, given the fact that there's only 1 starting tile remaining, and there are just generally not many city caps in the first place to get the other city caps. But then again, green is a little bit behind, and if from green's perspective we presume that we don't draw the last remaining curve, which we have to assume, because if we get the last curve, we probably win anyway. And then Rabbit gets the curve, drops a 6-point farmer, and then suddenly Rabbit is ahead due to their massive field on the left. So maybe as green, we can't necessarily afford to be wasting those points, and this is what green decided. He simply takes 2 points for a road, puts additional pressure on this square, but this gives Rabbit some time to try and build up his city. But will he? It's a very interesting decision for the Japanese player. Does he go over here and get a 6-point field and simply get himself the move which scores highest immediately? Or does he go over here, still preserve a decent chance of completing the city with multiple Dorito tiles still available, and by multiple I mean 5, and maybe even sacrifice his meeple for the sake of a bigger threat? If I'm having a good position, or if I'm playing against a player whom I perceive to be less skilled, then I typically go for the lower variance move, and it is something that RabbitRain does, apparently learning his lesson from his previous loss against Crocodile Fundy of the United States, where he managed to play just a bit too risky in a good position and ultimately losing to the American who was precise in his endgame. I all recommend that you go watch that match. It was live streamed, of course. And look at this, Red had correctly calculated that even after this completion of his road, there are still plenty of Doritos that threaten the completion of a city, and unless the Czech player does something about it, this meeple will bring a lot of points, upwards of 16 points to Red's scoreboard, probably outrunning even a curve draw from green. And that is why green, taking a hint from the playbook of Jorge Meya and going for this disruptive move, now not allowing for a Dorito plus Dorito pattern, only leaving a city cap plus city cap pattern available, and both of these city caps are quite restricted, and I'm not even sure if there are enough city caps in the deck to make that happen. Let's just double check that. Well, there's still 2 vanillas that fit here, so plenty of tiles to complete the city. But what about this side? Now, as for this square, we're running a bit more scarce on tiles because these guys are no longer here, and these guys are no longer here, and there in fact is only one right-handed dagger. So loads of cabs that fit here, only one cab that fit here. Again, not obvious for Mr. Rabbit what to do. We could just prolong our city, which in fact would not increase the chances of it being completed. It would probably reduce the chances of it being completed, because this square at the moment is actually nicely covered up. And if we do happen to get the last remaining dagger, which is over here, so never mind, there's nothing that fits into this square, so we probably shouldn't even bother. The only way to finish the city is to get a Dorito with the road, and then a city cap, and then another city cap, and the Japanese player decides that it is not worth it. He's going to go and invade the big ruin instead. Posse is trying to restrict that option, but there's still one cow tile that fits into the square. There are no Doritos, but there's still a cow. RabbitRain is now probably going to go over here for defense. There's still a Dorito with the road, and if the Czech player draws it, he can go over here and block the square. And if the Dorito is placed over here, this defense option will no longer be there. In the meantime, 14 tiles remaining in the match between Australia and Argentina, where Lionel seems to be in control with 23 extra points on the scoreboard and the field control, and even more field control as he drops more stuff. But an interesting threat at the bottom. So we're having ourselves some fireworks as Red is trying to overtake a big city of Lord Trooper, and there's still a couple of tiles available for him to do that. In the meantime, RabbitRain decides not to defend his square, and I wonder why this could be the case. So Posse can absolutely go over here now and block the square completely, but he's still thinking about it because he wants to decide, can he even afford to go over here and give RabbitRain 2 points? So the purpose of this move for Mr. Rabbit here was to simply prevent some invasion options back from the Checkmaster. Imagine if he were to get a city cap plus a Dorito tile, he could have invaded like this, but now he can't. I presume that a blocking move is what we're going to see. But the Czech player will be behind after this. Even though he's 13 points ahead on the scoreboard, this farmer alone is enough to compensate for that. And then in fact, Red has many more points on the board. So this monastery basically equals this field. And then these pieces of ruins, after this block especially, will be worth more than 10 points. And there's no way how Posse can score 10 points without getting his crucial draw. But he decided he just needs the curve in order to win, and he's going to get the curve. But he doesn't. Instead, he gets a city tile for which he does not have a good use other than just simply going over here, scoring 4 points, and praying for the 33% chance that he's going to get a curve on the last move. So this is about the best that he can do. I just don't see any other endgame options. We know that we're not winning without the curve, and we need to prepare for it, and we need to just score. In the meantime, a huge city was completed by Megot Noskill. We just missed the moment as this huge cow tile was placed for upwards of 24 points. But I believe this won't make a difference as Lord has so many farmers and there's so few tiles remaining to play that the Argentinian should be taking care of business here. Although this ruin here is like worth 10 points, it's going to be pretty close. But too many farms, too many farms. However, a great tile from Megot. He can go over here. In the meantime, the move has been played. Who drew the curve? And it was the Czech player who drew the curve. A bit of an end game imprecision, as he did not meeple this tile over here. But I believe it should give him enough to win, right? So one fewer point only scored for Pussy than he normally could have. Well, actually a bit more than this. There was an even better move that he could have played. He could have actually pre-meepled what became a 6-point field with the cow tile. But yeah, he loses anyway with 6 points. Isn't that fascinating? So just because he waited for the curve for such a long time, the Japanese player managed to create all these threats and just score and score and score. Look, like 10 points over here with just 2 tiles. So 4 points for a road, 6 points with a farm. Then this city, which was threatening the completion. And then this threat, which forced the invasion over here. It made it so that Pussy kind of had to use tiles for blocking, and by using these tiles to blocking, you know, like he's sacrificing a couple points here, he's sacrificing a couple of points here, and all these point sacrifices amount to a 6-point difference. So this is the power of creating threats. The Japanese master is ahead in this match, and a game 2 will be starting shortly. In the meantime, the last tile to be played by Lord Trooper in this match, which I have no doubt. Well, actually, I do have some doubt. It's going to be fairly close. Sadly, 2 very interesting games going on at the same time. But to be honest, I did not expect the Australian to mount such a beautiful threats and either come back or almost come back. Almost come back, right? Black has too many fields, right? Right? Yes, yes. Is that a 1-point win? I think that's a 1-point win. Black has a lot of fields, a lot of these 6-pointers, and ultimately just a 1-point difference. Okay, that's a lot of fun. So this game ended up being closer than our main game of the night. We certainly congratulate Lionel for taking his 2nd tournament points. He will be finishing this in 4th place in all likelihood, although we will need to see how Siegfried and Tarakanov play. Well, actually, no. He will be ahead for sure because he has the better tiebreaker. Megot Noskill will be probably finishing in 3rd. This still depends on how Lord Terrycloth and Secret Star play, but unless a miracle happens, then the Australian will have to play in the round of 24 in the playoffs. So now that the first match is over, we can be all eyes on the 2nd game between Czechia and Japan. 12 tiles have been played, 0 points have been scored. RabbitRain is thinking what to make of this cow tile, and it's time to update the scoreboard. Okay, and now I can't even see my face. Okay, let me just try. There's really not much that I can do with the sunlight. I do apologize about this. It's going to be very, very weird. Yeah, I guess it just is what it is. Like, I need to get, you know, one of these boards and just like board up all my windows. Oh, there we go. I can just stream like this. Yeah. That's actually doable. No, it's not. So, Lord Trooper wins. RabbitRain wins. And you know what? Let me try and deal with this. I think it's worth spending a minute or so
whilst red was trying to take over green city, but unsuccessfully, and somehow with 56 tiles remaining, so 16 tiles played, neither player has scored.
Okay, that's not enough, but that's a little bit better. Okay, there we go. I can see my face again. And now it's actually just the perfect lighting, even better than those like professional white lights. Alrighty, so what are we having in this position? Still 0 points for both sides. Well, not now, as the checkmaster is the first to score, but the Japanese rabbit is the second to score. 7 points on the scoreboard for a couple of roads. Poissy finishes a road for 4 points. I'm going to presume, or does he? There's a very interesting situation occurring into this big ruin. Oh, look at the aggression here. Oh, that seems to be... What's the opposite of conservative? Maybe a bit too liberal with his meeples. I mean, it's certainly very aggressive, and I like the aggression, but... Maybe if the old me would have done this. These days, I just... Okay, I can't do this. But I would just chicken out. I would just take my meeple back. Because Rabbit can now... Yeah, can do this, and it's so annoying to deal with. Like, this meeple will be stuck here for a long time. I mean, this move is nice because it takes out scoring movements from Rabbit. It's actually really, really nice. It takes out 2 road ends, it takes out a loop opportunity. But it will be a while before this meeple makes it back. So yeah, everything in Carcassonne is always a trade-off. You win some, you lose some. So what does the checkmaster do here? And it's not just a question about this particular move. There's a lot of meeple tension, a topic that I've been meaning to make a video about, and I'm more likely to do that after yesterday's match, which inspired me quite a bit. So this is a situation where it's not clear about who wants to block this square. If the square is blocked, then green is going to be in a winning meta battle because he gets to expand his side of the ruin. But then he's also going to lose 2 meeples because his monastery will be trapped. And red and green have the same number of meeples in the city. And so green made like a super, super flexible move. They added the points to their side of the city, and they still made sure that 1 tile fits into the square, saying... And like, depending on the game situation, it is not clear who will want to put this tile over here. The most likely outcome is neither of the players. Because if you are red, and if you go here, well, then you're helping your opponent's monastery. But then if you're green, and if you go here, well, then you're just giving points to your opponent. And you really don't want to be doing neither of these things. The Japanese player keeps scoring. Green, still in a difficult position with these 2 roads. Eventually they will come back, but what about that temporary meeple majority? Poissy with a shielded tile, presumably looking to develop his side of the city. Instead, he develops the monastery. Now, the Japanese player keeps scoring and scoring and scoring, and now drops a farmer for 6 points and a lot of green squares for further development. Green, with a city cap tile, finally can get himself a road meeple back. It is quite awkward because he will be expanding Red's field further, but then if you don't do it, then you just get blocked. He decides to not meeple the new city cap. Given the fact there are 3 starting tiles already on the board, you really don't want to have another meeple blocked. Speaking of meeples blocked, this guy is feeling the heat. Actually, there are still ways for green to bail out. If the square gets blocked, or even if it doesn't get blocked, there are still 2 splitters available in the deck, so green can go here, finish himself a 6-point city, drop a farmer over here, then maybe block red city, and then connect to the field and enjoy meeple parity in this game. Poissy with a curve, looking to protect himself a little bit, but a absolutely fantastic tile draw by RabbitRain. He draws the best possible tile in the deck, which starts him an 8-point city and also completely blocks the square, as it is the last dagger of its kind, which happens to be precisely the tile that green needs for this. Yeah, it's stuff like this what makes me want to get this meeple back earlier. Against somebody else, like, this move, again, it makes a lot of sense, but against Japanese players, like, this is how you end up. So now, this example will need to be shown to all other meeples out there in educational facilities. If you don't complete your roads early enough, this is your fate. Do you want to end up like that guy with just 3 points for the entire game? And then these little meeples will say, no, 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 no. We will complete our roads earlier. We will get out of roads earlier. But it's still not horrible. Again, the splitter is the saving grace for green. And green is also trying to make another good move. Look at this, taking out monastery spot, but more importantly, creating a threat against this square with some city plus road tile, of which there still are a few available. He can go over here and then block this red guy in return. Monastery tile for RabbitRain still has an opportunity to score, even though a scoring option has been taken out. Probably going over here for 5 points is still a decent idea. Also, is it crazy to just go here and simply play a low variance game? So the idea of this move is that it just scores a lot, and then it's just hoping for this tile, which scores a lot of points and gives both of you meeples back. Red is still in a good position, but this all might change after next move. That said, I don't think red should be too much afraid of getting blocked. There are really not that many tiles that go there. So, okay, so what are the threats? The 38 tiles remaining, and the blocking tiles are 1 starting tile. What else? 4 Doritos with the road. 2 butterflies. No daggers. And 1 horse. 1, 1, 2, 4. 8 blocking tiles. That's actually kind of a lot. So that's like around a 20% chance of getting blocked on your next turn. But then 20 is not a lot. There's still plenty of road tiles, and it is quite easy for us to draw a straight line and block this green guy. So very curious what the Japanese player decides to do here, and
he just discards a monastery, not something that you see Japanese players do very often. In the meantime, Green just tries and continue with his blocking threat, but a blocking threat of his own, so players are trading blows. Everything is blocked here, but it's a huge strategic gain for the Czech player to equalize his 3-point block meeple with another 3-point meeple of his opponent. So a huge sigh of relief for Czech fans. And also, as a result of these blocks, suddenly this farm is kind of restricted. So maybe if a tile goes here, and then if Green successfully takes out the city cap, then we are in a meeple parity situation. And Green has actually a decent number of points due to this mini battle, the monastery scoring pretty much the same as this field. Still a slightly better position for red, but playable for Green for sure. Road monastery for RabbitRain and no chances to score. Well, I guess, do we go now for 6 points? It is a lot. And it is easy to complete that monastery. I would be surprised to see any other move at this point, but no way. Did we just see a miscount from the Japanese player? Did we just see a miscount from me? No, we did. No, we did not. Because like 1, 2, 3, I'm not crazy. There are 3 dagger tiles, all of them are on the board, this square is completely blocked. And this move just indicates to me that maybe red is still hoping to save this guy. Because why else would you go there? You would definitely not go there, because like imagine if for some reason you forgo a 6-point monastery, which you don't, as the play with the green meeples, as the play with the red meeples rather. Then with this move, even if you decide to forgo the monastery, you would have done something else. You can go here, or like to give yourself more green squares, or maybe you can go here and start putting more pressure against Green's monastery, given the fact that this move indicated that pressure in Green's monastery was in fact red's intention. So it's quite refreshing to see this sort of mistake. It is a huge sigh of relief. First of all, it confirms that Mr. Rabbit is in fact a human. I know that many had reasons to think otherwise, and definitely makes everybody else, myself included, to feel better about their miscounts. Miscounts are actually my least favorite types of mistake to make. And as you may have seen from my Mind Sports Olympiad recap videos, I made a few of those recently. Something that has not actually happened to me in tournament games in a long time. Certainly something to work on. But apparently certainly something to work on for the Japanese player. It does not end up costing them too dearly, as they only just lost to move, or maybe a monastery spot. It's not like a huge deal. But I wonder if the Czech player will bite. Because after this move, well, you see your opponent is so high rated, they're the highest rated player on the platform, well, they must know what they're doing. So they must think that this square is still defendable, so I will go here and then block this meeple, which is already blocked. So we're going to see that in a second. And of course, this is not something that Green should do. Green has 4 moves that he could... Actually, Green has 5 reasonable moves. One is just going over here, adding a point to himself. Another one is going over here, adding a point to himself, also equalizing his 2-point meeple with a 3-point meeple of RabbitRain. Actually, this seems to be the most logical move to go over left. He could also go here, start a new city, threaten to finish it with a city cap and drop a farmer. He could also go over here and invade Rabbit City, because it now kind of looks threatening. Instead of invading, he could also go over here and try breaking the city, ultimately blocking it. And then he would preserve himself a meeple majority and try to win the game that way. So a lot of here to think about. The one thing that you don't do is you don't go over here and waste a tile. And waste a tile he does not. Goes for the low variance move of invading. Let's see if we're going to see ourselves another splitter invasion pattern, which is still possible for either side, as low prob as it is. Both sides are now equal on meeples, which should favor red as the side that controls the field. Of course, a monastery for Poissy, but still a unique tile draw away from completing it. And also this city on the left, of course, is very, very nice, but ultimately it could be equalized. And this is actually not a great position to be in as green, because if you draw the tile, then sometimes you're forced to just give away those points to get a meeple back. But if your opponent draws the tile, they can draw it late enough so that they still equalize the points, and then they give you a meeple back, but it is too late to use that meeple productively. So statistically, this situation should favor red over green. But green can't really do much other than just simply getting himself points. Red with a straight line. If we proceed in this pace, then we will have no break before our next match. This is something that I had not announced yet because it was a very short-term announcement. 1300 UTC, Glovier is playing against... I forgot whom, to be honest. But yeah, the Portuguese player is playing against somebody strong. Red is trying to limit invasion options for green, whilst also hoping for maybe a winning mini battle. If he gets himself a big city tile, he can block the square and build up his ruin for a couple of more points, which in a closed position could mean a lot. The Checkmaster could go over here and defend. Maybe even drop a farmer if you're crazy enough, but 4 points are just so much more valuable than saving a mini battle. Mr. Rabbit trying to get themselves a winning mini battle in a different spot, which I have no doubt will now be prevented. So these two guys are now equalized, and there's still one road Dorito tile that goes over here to even equalize here. Very tense position, still favors the Japanese player, I think, or does it? Let's think about it. So 5 points on the scoreboard. This is equal. This is equal. This is equal. It has +2 here from this mini battle, so that's +7. This guy has 7 on the monastery against 9 on the field, so that's +2 more, that's +9. This mini battle is 8 versus 1, so that's 7 points for Poissy. So in fact, the Japanese player is 2 points ahead, and he still has a chance to block this square. He has the field control, but he just lost 4 quick points, so suddenly the Czech player is 2 points ahead, which will... You know what, let's just stop counting points, because like, it just changes all the time. Now, Rabbit is ahead 1 point after completing this 3-point road, so it's like very close. Overall, Red has the more flexible position because the field control where he can grow his farm and like add city caps and stuff. But now Green has pre-built his monastery, which means that there's no way for Red to fill this square without giving Green a meeple back. Red with a tricky decision with his city cap. I can see 4 possible candidate moves. Move 1, we just go over here and we take care of this mini battle. So we have ourselves no chance to expand this ruin, but we have 5 points for this guy against 2 points for this guy. And in a close game, it could actually matter. Option 2, we go over here and we cover up the potentially shared city. We make sure that Green cannot draw more city tiles to make the city longer and longer and longer and longer. And that in the event we draw ourselves the horse tile, we can go over here and complete the shared city, which would also add 3 extra points to our field. Option 3, we go somewhere here or here or here, or simply leave the city cap in our farm, trying to get 7 more points after we complete the city cap. Option 4, we try to do something similar. We go over here and we try to set up an even bigger city in our city cap, in our field. And of course, if we drop a city cap in our field, or maybe we even go over here and we actually meeple it just in case, there are plenty of squares and plenty of rotations to go through and figure out which one actually benefits you the most. So it's something that Red will be spending a lot of time on. Strategically, I would be a bit wary about extending the field too much. Probably as Red, all I want to do is just add like 1 more city cap and get 7 more points to put myself comfortably ahead with like a small edge. The reason why it can be counterproductive to make the field too big is because Green can still attack it. Like, Green, of course, has only 1 meeple, but he can just wait until the end of the game, then find a platform and then invade. So it's super nice to have a field control, especially in a closed position, in a low meeple type of situation for both opponents. But then it's important to not to get carried away with the field too much, because these points are not liquid. Hi, Glavier. Oh, so that has to be interesting. So Glavier is playing Hyder Baby of Taiwan, who's currently occupying the 1st place in Group A. Notably, Hydro's the one who defeated someone you know. The reigning champion of the Carcassonne Champions League. So a city cap is drawn and dropped by Red in his field, so a normal scoring move, and Green now tries to create a platform to block it. His plan is, of course, to draw a straight line, then completely block the square and not allow an easy 7-point move by Red. A sigh of relief for Czech fans, at least for now, as a city cap is not what he has in hand. And there we go. Oh, it has to be super interesting. So the crucial tile has been drawn by Posse. This city tile. So do we go here to give ourselves the meeple at the hefty price of 8 points? 7 points rather. Or do we just go here, score 2 points, keep expanding my city, and accept the meeple disadvantage? Or meeple parity, rather. It's a very interesting decision. I'm inclined to just develop my city. I also want to develop my city rather than taking 2 points for the road, because developing my city allows me more options to use the couple remaining big tiles for even more city points without covering up my city too much. Hi, Lionel. Congratulations on your match. Hi, Kirillo. Oh yes, bets on the Carcassonne Champions League winner. I hope to set up something when the playoffs start. There are just some practicalities that need to be taken care of. But if there is already any betting going on, I probably would not want to participate in it, given that I myself have a horse in the race. And you know who else has a horse? Posse now. And he chooses to simply prolong his city. So this square here in the center will not be filled as anticipated. So 2 meeples are lost for the price of 1, but they score so much that it's completely justified, and it's an incredibly close game at the moment. In fact, green has the slight advantage even, I believe. But a lot has to do with the city cap, and look at this lovely move. So RabbitRain is trying to cover up his city cap to still leave him the chance to get one of the 2 city caps that fit there, either the vanilla or the splitter, and score 7.4 for the city and 3 for the field. But then it's also quite possible that Posse can get himself a city cap. A road monastery. Normally a lovely tile. Now will probably be used for scoring points. Yeah, exactly here. So you, just in case you need it, you create an attacking platform against your opponent's city, just in case you need it. Now a difficult decision for the Czech player here. Do you just go over here, add yourself a point, cover up your city from potential invasions, or do you play the risky move going over here just to try to take out that city cap? A more cautious approach is elected. Another attacking platform is created, but another scoring tile for Posse, which brings him closer to victory in this game, which would be the dream of all neutral Carcassonne fans, because if Posse wins this one, then the game will be headed into a decider. To be honest, I'm kind of rooting a bit more for RabbitRain here, because it has been a long stream, and I would really rather take a break before the next stream, which is at 1300 UTC. Too much stuff going on, not even any time to replenish the hot liquid supplies. There's something noteworthy about this monastery move I have to add. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh no, there isn't. Well, actually there was. So before this tile, there was a curve available, and it's created an opportunity for somebody to invade the farm like this. That's somebody being green. But now this will no longer be possible. Red drops more city caps in his field, so a sigh of relief for Czech fans, at least for the moment, as one of these city caps is drawn. He will presumably use it over here to clean off the city cap, get the 4 points, which of course is net only 1 point, and then creates a quite obvious platform for field invasion. It's actually quite difficult to play these positions from the perspective of the red player, because like you have the field's control, and if you make the field big enough, if it puts you far enough ahead, then your opponent can still attack the field. But if you're not ahead, then your opponent doesn't have to attack the field. So green will have a chance to win this game no matter what, which is not necessarily the case for red. But he draws a splitter tile, and I have no doubt that a 7-point move will be happening in due course. This field is now worth 15 points. Another scoring tile for Posse, who presumably is going to use it to take out another city cap. Actually, this city cap over here, not even in red's field. So that seems like a potential route to go. But there are other options. We could even consider invading the field right now. How about we go over here, drop a farmer like this, hope for the last remaining road Dorito tile that can go over here, equalize the cities, and complete the field invasion at the same time with an even number of unseen tiles. The chances of that are 50-50, but the reason why the Czech player will know better is because a move like this should allow an easy reinvasion from here. If we were to go for this risky move, then red doesn't have to hope that he's going to get the tile himself. He's just going to go over here, and then reinvade the farm. So we need to be strategic, and Poissy decides to invade the farm straight away, which I think was like a little bit too impatient, because what RabbitRain can do now, he could just like go here, drop a farmer, and then still threaten a reinvasion over here. Also, he drew a straight line, which was one of Poissy's invasion tiles, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's one more straight line remaining. Or there isn't. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, there are no straight lines remaining. And there are no crossroads remaining. But there is a starting tile. So a 40% chance that RabbitRain draws a starting tile and denies it to Poissy. I don't think this is the play. I guess we just go here. And then we hope to reinvade through the road Dorito tile. So this would be my obvious plan at first. But this needs to be calculated precisely. It is quite possible that the move is to go here and try and do this. You know what, actually, I think there's an even stronger move. We can go here and drop a farmer like this. And then we have ourselves an unblockable invasion to the field. And then we have a 60% chance to win the game, because in order to win, Poissy would need to invade the field himself and then draw the road Dorito tile to invite the invasion ourselves. That's actually super interesting, because the intuitive move is to go here, right? Because this field already scores 6 points. But in order to win, 6 points are not enough. You actually need to reinvade the entire field. So it's better to go for 0 points for the higher chance of reinvasion. Because if you go here, the risk is that Poissy first blocks this invasion square with something like, I don't know what he could draw. Oh, that's actually a good thing. Does he have blocking tiles? I don't see blocking tiles available. Wow, that's interesting. But let's assume that he has. Okay, so Rabbit does drop a farmer here. Poissy, no matter what, gets the curve. The only curve that fits into this square. And undoubtedly, he will also get himself a couple of extra points. And there's still one straight line for him to complete this invasion. Yeah, and I think that's why RabbitRain could actually drop his farmer safely. So I was thinking of an opportunity to block this invasion square. But there are no blocking tiles, so he figured he might as well take the 6 points. In addition to the 50-50 chance of invasion, which now will be denied to him. And there's just nothing that either player can do. Well, isn't that fascinating? Poissy, of course, is going to get himself a point here. But the starting tile is drawn by RabbitRain. So this guy will not be invading into the field, which I believe should be enough for the Japanese player to win in this match, despite a lovely, lovely find here from Poissy for that field invasion. Let's see what the scoreboard difference is. Just to rub it in, by the way, the starting tile also completes a city in RabbitRain's field, which gives him 3 extra. An incredibly strong endgame for both players. Poissy decided that simply meepling the city cap was not enough, that he tried to go for a little bit more. I probably would have still just gone for this and been a bit more patient. And then I would have tried to see what the pool of the remaining tile is, and then just made an invasion of my last move. Only 3 points! Only 3 points is the difference! Well, will you look at that? Also, you know what? Like, this move at the bottom is actually brilliant. It's so counterintuitive. Well, actually, here's the thing. It's like, for most players, it is the intuitive moves. But for master players, it is the counterintuitive move. The intuitive move is to go over here for 0 points because this is unblockable. But then realizing that this invasion is also unblockable, that all the other tiles that green could draw that fit into this square to block the connection actually don't block the connection, that's something that requires a lot of calculation. Yeah, very, very interesting endgame. So it makes sense to start the field invasion, but like this is very often the case that if you start an invasion too early, then your opponent can just drop another farmer and reinvade. Ultimately, neither farmer invaded, but this is the less obvious scenario of how red could win. Because it looks unlucky that green didn't get his invasion tile, but red also didn't get his invasion tile. And in fact, when red went over here, red had a 60% chance to win the game. Either by invading himself, or by going over here with a straight line. Wait, but wait a second. Wait. This is actually not the case. Oh, this is so much fun. Look at this. The last 3 points scored by this tile, by RabbitRain, right? In the last move. That sort of put him over the edge. Without 3 points, the game is a tie, and given the fact that Posey is the starting player, it's still a win for RabbitRain. But what? There is a sequence where this tile is drawn by RabbitRain before Posey gets this tile over here. And then imagine what happens. Rabbit, of course, use it over here to score 3 points. And then Posey can use this tile, not for the city connection, which only scores him 1 point extra, but he can backdoor to this bottom 6-point field to get himself 3 points, which gives him 1 more than what he had in the game. Yeah, it's very... No, okay, it's complicated. It gets too complicated. I don't want to do this. I just want to stop the stream. Kaika is asking if it was necessary for Posey to invade the field. It's tricky to say. I think the answer is no. So as the Czech player, I would have just scored the 4 points. But then the risk is if our opponents get a straight line, then they get to score 3 points for the road, and then they also add this city cap into the field. So then that way it will be necessary for us to attack the field later. But I would have probably left it at this. I would have just taken the 4 points, then let my opponent make the field bigger, and then try to invade later. So how could I invade later? Maybe that's the thing. Maybe that's what the Czech player was worried about. It's actually very difficult to invade later. I guess you could go... So you would need to hope for just a more elaborate tile sequence. So from green's perspective, there are 2 possible invasions. Either we go over here and connect through a row Dorito tile. So we get a straight line, then row Dorito tile, right? Like this. The same works over here, but a bit less so, because with the starting tile available, this invasion square is blockable. But then the problem with this connection is that these tiles need to be drawn in a particular order. It's a very, very tricky endgame, so I still don't know the answer to this. I mean, this move certainly makes sense, But I can tell you regardless, like the position of the checkmaster was not great. Because this move was still before this Road Dorito move, so he was even a couple points further behind. What else could we have done? Really not much. Yeah, I guess at some point we just have to hope for the Road Dorito, and that's pretty much it. And then we can get either a straight line plus Road Dorito, or we get one of the city tiles, we go over here for the 6-point field, and then try to invade with the Dorito that way. But then our opponents can also claim this field for themselves. Yeah, it's very, very tricky. So I think no matter what the Czech player does there, his win percentage is not great. Somewhere between 20 and 40. Although you have to find where exactly between 20 and 40, and I am not willing to spend more time on this endgame. I'm pretty sure that both players are also tired. What I can say, definitely a very high level game, very grueling, this close position, fighting for every single point. Bunch of blocked meeples. Something that I'm sure the 2023 world champion Matt Tucker would have loved to partake in. Anyway, that should be enough, right? Just make sure to meeple the like button before you leave. That's important for the algorithm. And I'm gonna see you in like half an hour for Glovier versus Hyder Baby. Time to get some calories, time to get in some hot beverages. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you soon.